Good morning, dear friends. Am I hearable? Yay. My calendar says it's June the 8th. June the 8th. Well, my garden looks like June. It's growing just like crazy. It's amazing. I get up in the morning and even the carrots change almost overnight, which is not right. But beautiful soil they're growing in. Please be sure to mute yourself if you've just joined. Hello to those of you that are joining us on YouTube and Facebook. My apologies for the difficulty with the connection. One of my dogs ate one of my Ethernet cables, so the broadcast is going through Wi-Fi. It's not nearly as stable. Hopefully it will continue to work. There's a new Wi-Fi cable coming tomorrow or the next day, I think. So we're on our new clubhouse. It doesn't seem any different to me at all. So I have returning to where I began with these morning meditations, with this marvelous little book, The First Free Women. The First Free Women, Poems of the Early Buddhist Nuns. Joanna Macy says, like opening a window and letting a clean, fresh wind blow through my being. These are women at the time of the Buddha who awakened, and then who then wrote a poem or poems about their journey. Uttama, great woman. For years I couldn't sleep. Most nights I'd throw off the covers and take long runs through the dark. Nothing helped. My sisters, when sleepless nights come to tear you into little pieces, rise to meet the day as a tree rises to meet the axe, as a scalp bows to meet the blade, as sparks from a dying fire reach out to meet the darkness, as all of our bones someday fall softly down to meet the earth. When you stand, send your roots down between the stones. When you walk, walk like a skeleton walking to its grave. When you lie down like a blown-out candle being put back in the drawer. When you sit, sit very, very still. My sisters, sit like you are dead already. How could this world possibly give you what you're looking for when it's so busy falling apart, just like you? Look closely. Don't move until you see it. For years I couldn't sleep. Most nights I'd throw off the covers and make long runs through the dark. Nothing helped. My sisters, when sleepless nights come to tear you into little pieces, rise to meet the day as a tree rises to meet the axe, as a scalp bows to meet the blade, as sparks from a dying fire reach out to meet the darkness, as all of our bones someday fall softly down to meet the earth. When you stand, send your roots down between the stones. When you walk, walk like a skeleton, walking to its grave. When you lie down like a blown-out candle being put back in a drawer. When you sit, sit very, very still. My sisters, sit like you are dead already. How could this world possibly give you what you're looking for when it's so busy falling apart, just like you? Look closely. Don't move until you see it. Falling apart just like you. Isn't that the truth? What interesting medical adventure will I have today? I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Take no other refuge, said the Buddha, other than the Dharma. The way things actually are, utterly impermanent, unable to really satisfy. And where, oh where in this massive change is that which I can call myself? Where can I hang my hat that it'll actually stay hanging for a while? I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. Natasha, please mute yourself. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. So here we sit. It could be under a tree in North India. It could be here in your living room. Could be somewhere very warm or somewhere very cold. There could be great solitude, or there could be some people nearby. It could be silent, it could be noisy. It doesn't matter. It's always the same. We find ourselves right here in the present moment. We find life in the legs and feet. We find life in the hands. There's life in what we each call the face, my face. Go deeply into this life. Embrace it fully. You'll never be more alive than this moment. This is it. And the body breathes. Each breath sings the song of beginning and ending. Let yourself settle like a gentle rain into the sensations of breathing. You don't have to grasp at it. It's really more a matter of not doing than a matter of doing. It's a rich experience. The pristine quality of awareness meeting that craving, that longing for air, for breathing in. Out of no breathing comes the inception of the breath. It begins, it rises to fullness. It turns the corner of expansion into contraction. It then contracts until it vanishes. And then there's just the body sitting here. And the mystery of awareness, knowing it. I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in this moment. This means we don't have to be in battle against anything for this time of practice. If the mind is wandering, then it wanders. And then awareness wakes up to it. If there's worry, there's worry. And then there's knowing it. If there's contentment, there's contentment. And there's knowing it. If there's longing or desire or wanting, that exists. And there's knowing it. If there's disliking or hating or aversion, it exists for a time, and then there's knowing it. Everything that happens is worthy of attention. A spiritual discipline means that we do that which we really, 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 really want to do. It's not a superficial desire. It's not a fleeting desire. I really want to know peace. I really want to know love. I want to have access to equanimity in the absolute instability of the world. I want to find that still point where I am at ease, or where there is ease. And so time and again, come home to the breath. Come home to the beauty and simplicity of this breathing in and breathing out. No person who needs to attain something or get somewhere just this. See just how still you can let the body be. All beings cherish their lives. All beings fear suffering. At least all human beings. We fear loss. We avoid thoughts of sickness, old age, decay, and death. We distract. And as we deepen in our spiritual journey, we discover we can, in fact, begin to turn toward and embrace the difficult truths of impermanence, of aging, of death, the death of our loved ones, the death of our pets. And as we do that, our hearts melt and we become compassion. We don't get lost in sympathy, in sympathetic vibration, in suffering someone else's suffering. But we do know we can open to the reality of others' suffering. And this then leads us to the motivation to be of service when we can. And we can set our intentions. We can somehow set a course in times of greater sanity. I aspire to be loving. I aspire to live in reality where love is natural. This in-breath, I aspire to receive it completely. The complexities of my personality, I aspire to receive them fully, lovingly. Perhaps think of the parts of yourself that you'd, in a normal, in an everyday sense, want to get rid of. Getting rid of doesn't seem to work in that realm, so on the in-breath, I aspire to accept myself as I am. And we can also have the intention, I want to accept myself as I am, and I want to be really awake so that my behaviors of thought, speech, and action are kind. We could, on the in-breath, intone a simple mantra, may I be free. Free from attachment to suffering. And on the out-breath, may all beings be free from attachment to suffering. And so we would practice on the in-breath, may I be free. Or even, I am freedom. You are freedom. I am freedom. I am the space in which everything happens. All the pleasures, all the pains, birth and death. On your in-breath, I am freedom. On the out-breath, you are freedom. And so in this way we bring the best of human nature to the fore, and we amplify it. We take our place as living conscious beings. It is we in this moment who carry the flame of awakeness. It's a remarkable responsibility, privilege. So let's take up the challenge to be as mindful as we possibly can, and then to be really generous to the world in our every action. And please now do what is necessary to begin to plan, to open the eyes, and then let your eyes open, and let them open with a blessing of some kind. We have to be quite intentional. May you be free. May you know freedom. And then see one or two or three of your colleagues here. May you be free. And do then feel free to stretch if that's the next thing. And by way of love and commitment and catching the wind that's in our sails at this moment, I want to read to you just this morning released, we've been working on it for a week or more, this statement from the PIMC Teachers Council in response to Black Lives Matter and the great social awakening that is happening. As Dharma teachers, our hearts are broken open at this time of great pain and suffering. We bear witness to the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and countless other Black Americans, and feel the anguish of the racial inequalities and the frequent failure of the courts to bring justice in these cases. Most grievous is that these tragic events are not isolated incidents. They are part of a systemic racist injustice in the United States that is rooted in centuries of slavery and segregation, and manifested in continued economic and social exclusion, inferior education, mass incarceration, and ongoing violence against Black people. The historic and continued suffering of people of color in this country, of Blacks, Native Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, and others, is our collective suffering. The harm caused daily is our collective responsibility. Once we see this suffering, our freedom unfolds as we respond with a wise and compassionate heart. The Buddha's teachings are grounded in a clear recognition of suffering, an ethical commitment to non-harming, and an understanding of interdependence. We can't separate our personal healing and transformation from that of our larger society. This work is actually about mutual liberation, what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called an inescapable network of mutuality. It is imperative for us to look at racism, call it out, see it in ourselves and in the world we live in, and find ways to heal from it collectively. It's not about guilt, it's about healing and freedom and love. Our PIMC mission statement says, "We understand the spiritual journey to be one of awakening in the world rather than escape or transcendence from life. Our intention is to empower people to live with impeccable integrity, the willingness to truly be themselves, and the capacity to act powerfully with compassion in the world. The core values that guide us are kindness and non-harming, love, generosity, mindfulness, and wisdom as we create authentic, non-judgmental, inclusive, and respectful community relationships. Our aspiration is to become a truly inclusive and beloved community. In this process, we're committed to honesty and bravely uncovering the ways we create separation and unintentionally replicate patterns of inequity and harm. In the same spirit, we are committed to engaging with other faith and social justice groups in support of dismantling racism throughout society. Right now, we believe it is imperative to focus our attentions and efforts on the pervasive and ongoing violence done to Black people in our country. We are inspired by the courage and leadership of the Black Lives Matter movement, and walk in solidarity with them. Since their inception, Buddhist teachings and practices have been explicitly devoted to liberation. In his time, the Buddha was a revolutionary voice against racism and the caste system. Quote, "Not by caste, race, or creed or birth is one noble, but by heart alone is a being noble." The Buddhist trainings in mindfulness, wisdom, and compassion create the grounds for wise speech and wise action. These teachings and practices free our hearts from greed, prejudice, and hate, and serve an essential role in social healing and in the awakening of all. We are creating a new social justice initiative at PIMC. The first suggested action is a book group to study the book Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad. We call upon you, our beloved friends in the Dharma, to join us, to continue to be committed to the Dharma of justice, equality, inclusion, and freedom, to use the trainings in meditation and ethical behavior to turn outward to the greater community, to vigorously work to educate ourselves and each other regarding power, privilege, and prejudice, and to take action where we can to make a difference where we can. The PIMC Teachers Council, Robert Beatty, Doug Pullen, Jim Dalton, Kate Staples, Gregory Maloof, Doyle Banks, Christine Howard, and Gary Sanders. It's a momentous time. I'm encouraged by the fact that the curfews are stopped and the demonstrations are growing. And perhaps this time something will really happen. As we went about writing this statement, one thing was clear throughout, which is it's not a new thing for us as teachers or PIMC to hold these values, and it remains imperative that we really shepherd our own consciousnesses and our own hearts so that we can stay sane, and to not lose ourselves, to not become social action only, but to become people of great depth of spiritual practice who bring that to social action. So I think that's what I have to say this morning. I'm really grateful that you have joined me here in our new clubhouse. I'm glad the transition seemed to work pretty well. And I want to open up the gates to see if you have something you too would like to share. So as you wish, please unmute yourself and you'll be right here. Thanks, Tally. That's a nice quote. Jennifer and I watched the first 2/3 of the movie 13. Which is the story of the 13th Amendment and the attempt to perhaps create a more just society, to abolish slavery, and the remarkable attempts, very successful laws and activities and mass incarceration that have continued the same horrors, actually. It's hard to watch, but really very useful, I think. Lots of cats this morning. Oh. Did you say something, Jim?
Did you hear Sherry?
No.
She's trying to
my
comment.
Oh, please. No, I didn't at all. Sherry, please, go ahead. Technical failure. Robert to Sherry, come in, please.
Sherry, you're muted.
Sherry, you're muted. Success.
Am I there?
No, you're here. Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes, now.
I really need some advice. I don't know what to do. My son called me last night and told me that my sister is dying. He's in Southern California. Normally would be up here in Canada in the summer. We don't have a good relationship ever since the 2016 election. There was just a big separation that happened. And we were never really, really close anyway, but the problem is right now, shortly after he called me to tell me this, And he got that word from her man friend she lives with now. She's going to be 90 in September. He called me back and said, I had a hard time understanding his phone message, but now I've got the word from someone else that neither you nor your brother are to know this. So I don't know how to respond to this.
Neither you nor your brother are to know that she's dying?
Not. He has a week to a month to live.
Uh-huh.
Lung cancer. I mean, she's never smoked in her life. I don't understand how that happens. But
We all breathe the air
exactly.
and have genetics.
And we have all this stuff between us that's just not resolved, not been good. And I don't know. I'm not supposed to know. So how can I respond, or do I not respond? I just don't know what to do.
Boy, that sounds like life, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you like advice?
Yes, please.
You have a lot of freedom in a circumstance like this, with the statement that, and who said you're not supposed to know? Was it your sister who said that?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Carl didn't. He wouldn't say. He
So-
just said another person.
Right. So you could break the rules. You're allowed to call her or write her. You're a grown up, and you could.
Evidently, she won't talk on the phone. She's extremely hearing impaired.
Yeah. So you could write her.
That's what I thought.
You could write her and tell her you love her and invite a conversation. And beyond that, you have your own capacity of forgiveness, and forgive yourself and forgive her, and let things be as they are. What's happening to her is not that unusual, of course. You know, it's where we're all headed. And you can do your own grieving. And there's so many, I feel teary myself right now, so many relationships end in our lives never having been resolved. So oftentimes things with family. You know, we just never, it never, despite our best efforts. And sometimes old relationships end, and then some people hold grudges, and there's no way to come to a resolution interpersonally, but there is a way to come to resolution in oneself, which is the practice of forgiveness.
That's very helpful.
And you don't have to have some rapprochement with your sister in order for you to be happy and feel content and know that you've done what you could do, because that's in you. There's a kind of emotional tyranny when we think that we have to, think somehow we have to get the other person to come to a place that we could then have the conversation we really want and need to have. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. There was a conversation I wanted to have with my mother that never happened. Despite my trying, and she was in a nursing home for 6 years, and she was clearly dying, and there was no way she would talk about that. And I was working in hospice at the time. If I brought up that subject, it would be, I'm not talking about that. So, yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can take care of yourself in this really well, and you don't have to fix her. You don't have to fix the relationship. You may not be able to.
Thank you, Robert.
And you can grieve.
Robert.
I hear a voice. It's
Robert.
Kathleen. Hi.
Good morning. I just wanted to also remind her of something that you taught me that was very, very helpful. Rather than work out, which I tried to work out many years in therapy, just the division with my former husband, I did the loving kindness meditation. And, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering, may you be free from danger, may you be well in body, mind, and spirit, and so on. And I brought him to me visually like he was coming down from a mountain. And rather than sit in front of me, I had him sit to the side of me because it was safer, because it was an abusive relationship. And through those many, many times of working that loving kindness meditation, the relationship actually healed. And so within me, it was a way to create peace.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Hi, it's Tally.
Hello, Tally.
Thank you so much for that statement by PIMC. I actually shared it, a little ad on my Instagram to get people to come to the Sangha if they find this kind of thing useful. I participated Saturday in that class, and I just think one of the things I'm exploring is the phrase that came up while you were talking and while we were meditating was fierce love. I have a lot of anger and, rage kind of coming up at the outrage of, just everything that's been going on for so long. And I'm trying very hard to think about how to bring love and compassion to bear. And I can see that that's the way, that's going to help me to act and speak right in a rightful way, right? Like a right action and right speech. But, I'm wondering, I don't know where I read it once, but that like Buddhism is not, the Buddha is not teaching us to be passive and weak. I think there's some people out there who believe, sitting and taking this time is not acting, and so in a way that actually creates change. And I guess I wanted to just ask if, what that brings up for you, Robert, and anyone else. Fierce love was the thing that came up. And one other thing is the protest last night at Revolution Hall. The amazing people leading it were talking about how they Rose City Justice and all of these amazing organizations and people of Portland are coming together to be more cohesive in their action and less divided and like individual, which I've always, I work a lot in the philanthropic and nonprofit communities, and I see a lot of siloed action, siloed efforts that just drives me crazy because everybody's trying to achieve very similar things, but they're holding on to their thing. And what happened yesterday was these coalitions, these individual groups are coming together with combined a cohesive action forward with demands for the city. And it just made me feel like that's what fierce love is. It's like giving something up to bring together everybody in a literal solidarity. So it just felt like such a Buddhist moment, and it gave me a sense of like what I can how I can maybe focus my action.
The Buddha's teachings, I think, create a lot of freedom. Their purpose is freedom. He said, the taste of these teachings at the beginning is the taste of freedom. The taste in the middle is the taste of freedom. The taste at the end is the taste of freedom. And there are people for whom going to the monastery and being in meditation and devoting their life to that is their contribution to the world. And there are others of us who go deeply into meditation and connect in with the oneness of all beings, and then that leads to social action. And it's social action with a heart, with care. Its intention and depths are nonviolent. And I believe it's crucial that we don't define a person's caring or commitment on the basis of whether they're on the front lines or not in that way. That there are some people for whom that would be the wrong action. And but there are others of us that then, with the heart more open, and when we get beyond our own personal suffering, we do our own personal work so that we can actually see the outside world clearly, it may mean that we have to put our life on the line. That we may need to take a stand that costs us our life, or that winds us up in jail or something. It could be that could happen on the basis of the truth that we discover through our deep meditation. When this kind of question arises, I remember Jack Cornfield talking about when he was in Thailand. He was in Ubon Ratchathani, which is in eastern Thailand, and it was one of the 2 American air bases out of which the bombing of Cambodia took place, and they could hear the bombs at night. And Jack had friends that came through on their way to Hanoi. They were going to help the North Vietnamese. And they said, "What the hell are you doing here? You're sitting on your ass in this monastery for years, and you're not contributing. You should come with us." And it got him, and he went to Ajahn Chah and said, "I'm upset by this. What should I do? Shouldn't I go?" And Ajahn Chah's answer was quite interesting, I think, which was, there have to be places of sanity. And from those places of sanity comes great love. And Jack's life is a great example of that. He was 7 years, I think, in withdrawal, and then look who he's become. He's written so many books and founded meditation centers, but he needed that period of withdrawal in order to clarify his own purpose and his own heart. So each of us has our really own destiny with this, and it's been one of my writing that statement was part of the challenge of it. Was there's statements coming through the culture right now that if you're not radical and on the front lines, you're not doing it, and that's not true. You have so much energy. I love that. I'm glad you're a part of PIMC now, too.
Thank you, Robert.
I just had another thought come through, and funny, I censored it immediately, but years ago I had a teacher friend, Eric Kolvig. Haven't heard or seen him in 20 years, but he had a statement he made with some frequency, which was, samsara is broken, Samsara is the wheel of birth and death. It's this whole life. Samsara is broken, and there is no fixing it. Now, it would seem as though we might be at a turning point around racism in America. And a great awakening could happen, and I really hope that's the case. And more likely, there will be partial and hopefully great successes, and then a generational change. That it will take time, and I think it serves us to be somewhat impatient for it to happen, and to put the effort into it that we as white people, most of us here are white people, to look at our own structures of white supremacy and so on. But life is always messy. And so to be able to tolerate the successes and the partial successes and the failures, because that's the way life is. And also still to be able to find some moments of peace, particularly I'm harping on about this, to find some peace in our meditation time and to take retreat time in order to really touch deeply into the deep peace, which then informs our activism.
Hi, this is Amber.
Hello, Amber.
Hi. I wanted to speak to that. Many years ago, probably about 20 years ago now, I actively chose to not participate in news, media. I buried my head in the sand for a long time because it was overwhelming and unbearable for me. And had it not been for finding this group, the Sangha, and the work that I've done over the past, few years, and had meditation and Buddhism be part of my life, I wouldn't be able, I'd be doing the same thing right now. So I'm able to now read, participate, educate myself, and speak to others about it from a place of love and respect. And just deeply listen. And sometimes, one of the things that I've learned, and it was part of, the Eightfold Path course, the thing that I took with me and I live by daily is that wise speech. And sometimes the wisest thing for me is to not say anything at all. And had it not been for my practice, my head would still be in the sand. So everybody has their process, and I'm just very grateful for being able to sustain my own voice. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you for taking care of yourself way back when you didn't have the resources, inner and outer, to face it. So you did what is the sane thing to do, which is to circle the wagons and care for yourself.
Thank you, Robert. I just want to say I got so much out of this meditation this morning. I love the pieces about self-acceptance. I've been frustrated because I'm on this Facebook page that's devoted to kind of justice, but one of the things they're doing is kind of purity testing with small local restaurants about if they don't do activism the way they prescribe it, they want people to boycott it.
Yikes.
Yeah, I've been very frustrated with that, and of course I've gotten into the Facebook fight, which is like the the most involved state of any human being.
Right.
Right. And so when you said like, may I be at peace, my mind immediately said, no, I want to win on Facebook first before I can be at peace, and which is crazy thinking. So anyway, I just want to kind of release myself, because I've appreciated what you said, but I also know the people on this site aren't really ready to hear anything I have to say. And
Right.
so wasting my life energy that way is not healthy or healing for myself or anyone else. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Steffi. I'm laughing. I just remembered a long time ago now, my first wife, the mother of my kids, was a professor at Lewis and Clark College, and she came home one day, and she was teaching Buddhism and Carl Jung to college freshmen. And she came in the front door saying, swine, swine, pearls before swine. I'm throwing pearls before swine. And that was here she is teaching this profound depth of spiritual understanding that she had. And the kids, they were college freshmen. I mean, they're children. And anyway, she quit soon thereafter and went off to become a therapist. But yes, sometimes it doesn't make sense to offer your wisdom to people who just cannot hear it. Laughter feels good. Well, I think we should be moving toward winding up. Anybody sitting with anything that wants to be spoken, needs to be spoken? I see Lisa speaking, but I don't hear anything. Is that my end? Can anybody hear Lisa? No.
No.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, okay.
Now, yes. Hi.
I just appreciated too your meditation, and I just, my cat died on Saturday, and I'm just thinking, it never gets easier. It never gets easier, and I appreciate you talking about impermanence. I think it's so hard with our animals because the relationship isn't complicated like the other, I forget her name, but she was talking about her sister and how complicated, the relationship is with our animals. It's usually just pure love, and when they die, it's just, it never gets easier. And I'm just trying to sit with that, and it's really hard. I appreciated you. I think you mentioned something about our pets dying, and that helped. It helped.
The loss of a pet towards whom one has profound love and attachment can be as big as any loss. And so how to navigate the territory following that. Oh, and also the loss of what was your cat's name?
His name,
he used to come and listen when we'd have these too.
Yeah.
But his name was Luke.
Luke?
Yeah.
So the loss of Luke kind of tears your heart open, and it connects you into the grief, which is the grief of your whole lifetime. And in that way, it's an opportunity to open further in compassion to yourself. And so giving yourself time and leaning on friends and maybe not sitting, maybe doing walking meditation or go for long walks in the woods or something to allow yourself to have the space and to not be so focused as you might be in sitting on the grief. Yeah. And it will pass, and you'll become an even more compassionate, loving person because of this pain. The price is high. Take care, my dear. Whew, boy. Thank you for sharing that. I know there's at least one other person, she's gone now, I guess, who was here this morning whose dog died last week.
Robert?
Had.
This is Had.
Gotcha. Hi.
Okay. Thank you for mentioning the movie The 13th.